What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Uh, Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and content. I don't usually do lives, man. At least not by myself, but there was a subject that I was going to talk about. Um, Basketball. Then I ran across this article about Lou Holtz. I think this was like within the hour. Lou Holtz passed away, right? So I said I was going to add this to my live, man, because I remember when I first started really getting into college football. Lou Holtz, man, at Notre Dame was, Notre Dame football was really big. That was a lot bigger than what it is now. Like Notre Dame has not been able to return to like the glory days back when Lou Holtz and before Lou Holtz, but they had some good programs in between. But this guy right here, Lou Holtz, man, I'm sad to hear that he passed because, like I said, man, I remember Lou Holtz and when let me see, Notre Dame played against Michigan. Those were some big games. Miami, Notre Dame, Miami, those were big games. It just was that's when, to me, college football back in those days was really fun, man. It was good, man. And to just hear this sad news right here is just crazy. I'm gonna go to the article. Let me see what this article say about Lou Holtz. Oh, okay, dang. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. All right, here we go. It says longtime college football coach Lou Holtz died on Wednesday, months after reports emerged that he was in hospice care. Notre Dame announced he was 89 years old. So, man, let me see. Notre Dame mourns the loss of Lou Holtz, a legendary football coach, beloved by members of Notre Dame family and was a devoted husband. Let me see, father, grandfather. Let me see. Notre Dame president, Reverend Robert Downs, said in a statement, in part, among his many accomplishments, will be remembered him as above as a teacher, a leader, a mentor who brought out the very best in his players on and off the field, earning their respect and their admiration. And so, to me, man, Lou Holtz to me was like one of those throwback coaches when you talk about he reminded me like the old school coaches, like Tom Landry was a old school coach that like I said, when I first started watching football, Tom Landry was an old school coach. Then you had Jimmy Johnson. What was those other? It was the guys at Miami, man. Like it was just a lot. As far as I'm gonna separate college from the pros though, but it was a lot of good, really old school coaches, man. And Lou Holtz was among the best, in my opinion, when he was at Notre Dame. They was just fun to watch. Like I said, when they used to go back and forth against Miami, Michigan, those were some big games. And yeah, man, let me go back to some more of this article and what they say about Lou Holtz. You know what? I had no idea that Lou Holtz was he was in hospice, but he was 89 years old. Let me see. Holtz was a head coach at 6 different schools and even spent a season as a coach for the New York Jets. Let me see. He's known for his tenure as a Notre Dame coach from 86 through 96, as the Fighting Irish went 100 wins, 30 losses, 2 ties under his watch. Man, that's impressive. 100 wins, only 30 losses. Man, that's impressive. Let me see. Notre Dame went 12-0. Let me see something. Let me see. Notre Dame went 12-0 in 1988 and finished the season number 1 in both the AP Top 25 and the coaches poll after its Fiesta Bowl win. It was the first national title for the Irish in 11 years after they won 4 across the 60s after they won 4 across the 60s and the 70s. Yeah, man. Like I said, when was this? 1988, right? In the 80s and 90s, man, Notre Dame football. I know guys like to this day, my age, man, that just they living in Baltimore, just Notre Dame fans. Notre Dame. I got a friend named Tony, man. He's as a matter of fact, he sent 2 of his sons to Notre Dame. Yeah, those man, those were like when he was at Notre Dame, man. That just was. I'm sad to hear though that Lou Holtz passed away, man. That's really sad. So yeah, 89 years old. Yeah, but he was one of the best, man. Definitely one of the best. Condolences, man, to everybody, to his family. Condolences to everybody who to the Notre Dame family and everything, man. That's just sad. So yeah, like I said, I was going to talk about. Well, I still am, but I was going to talk about Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant because I ran across a some content by this guy. What was this guy name? Well, the basketball show, right? And he was talking about what was this guy talking? Oh, he was talking about Jeremy Lin, an interview between Jeremy Lin and Dwight Howard, right? Dwight Howard and Jeremy Lin, they were discussing how Kobe was rude to them, right? And so I just wanted to basically reply to that, right? Because sometimes people think that being, like Mike had to be rude in order to be successful. Kobe had to be, they had to take on these rude and arrogant attitudes in order to be successful, which I disagree with, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the audio from this guy's show. Hopefully it's fair use and I won't get like a copyright strike or anything though, because there's some points that I want to make about this when we talk about like, is it really necessary to be an asshole in order for you to be a successful franchise basketball player, right? Which I'm gonna have to push back on though. But look, for people who, if you just tuning in, man, I just spoke a little bit about Lou Holtz, and I probably go back and forth, like as people tune in, man. Like I said, this is a sad day for football fans, Notre Dame football fans, friends and family of Lou Holtz, who just passed away at 89 years old. So I probably, back and forth, or if somebody come in the chat and they have something to say about Lou Holtz, as far as like remembering Lou Holtz or something like that, then we could talk about that. But for right now, I want to go into, like I said, some content from this podcast called The Basketball Show, right? And on the show, Jeremy Lin, Dwight Howard was discussing how Kobe Bryant was mean to them. And I want to listen to it and give my comments.
I hope I don't offend anybody, but we have 2 guys that lasted only 1 season with Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard and Jeremy Lin, crying about how mean Kobe Bryant was. Let's watch. To each other, they talk about, he's telling Jeremy Lin that he had a bad relationship with Kobe. They couldn't get on the same page. Kobe really didn't like him. He went at him and all that stuff. And he was asking Jeremy Lin if Jeremy Lin had that moment with Kobe. And Jeremy Lin said, yeah, we had a moment like that with Kobe. It was about the same. And then he says that after that moment, they literally did not speak for 5 months. So let me just get you a background here. Jeremy Lin, at the age of 26 years old, was a Los Angeles Lakers in 2014, 2015. That's when Kobe Bryant was still a Laker. He was still an all-star, averaging 22.5 points. Jeremy Lin averaged 11.2, and Kobe Bryant and him got into an argument over a play during a game, which Jeremy Lin describes. Now, he also says that he reached out to Kobe through text message to kind of confront him about some bad body language that he saw, and wanted to clear things up, and told Kobe he was so much better than him. He wanted to learn from him, all that other stuff. So I kind of see why Kobe didn't respect him, but you got to hear this story from Jeremy Lin, and I'm going to explain my point of view right after. So listen to Jeremy Lin explain the story and tell the story about him and Kobe Bryant, how they couldn't connect. And this was most likely the biggest reason why Jeremy Lin didn't last in Los Angeles more than a season. So here's Jeremy Lin, guys.
Like, man, I was just only thinking in the moment, like, hey, you got to help. I would say if it was anybody else.
Yeah.
So y'all had that moment?
Yeah, we did. Very similar. He was upset at me over something that I was actually trying to do, but the coach was telling me not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, no, don't foul him. I was like, no, we got to foul him. Right. And so Kobe was like, foul him. I was like, I know I'm trying to, but I'm telling the coach, and the coach is telling me don't foul. So then I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it ended up being something where he had given me really bad body language. So I texted him. And we couldn't, like, me and him, like, when we would lose, we'd be up at like 3-4 in the morning, just not able to sleep, just very competitive.
Yeah.
So I texted him, and I was like, hey man, like, I really don't appreciate the body language. And so he came back with a sharp response, and then I went back at him. But it ended cordial, where I ended up saying, I was like, I'm not saying that you can't teach me. You're obviously like 100 times the player I am. I want to learn anything and everything I can from you. I'm just asking, can you just say and do it in a way that's like respectful to me as a man, right?
Yes.
And so he was like, all right, I got you. And then he sent over a text with some advice. He's like, let's start with this. I was like, I got you. I'm gonna be focused on that. I'm gonna be working on this. I'm gonna be thinking on this, of exactly what you're saying. I'm just trying to get better. I'm trying to help this team more.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't speak for the next 5 months.
Damn.
He's not used to people challenging him. And I wasn't challenging him like I'm better than you and I'm smarter than you. I was only challenging him like, hey, can you teach me in a way that's a little bit more effective for me to process it? It's not versus not like talking down to me. If you yelled at me and you're like, yo, what are you doing? Get your head out your ass. Like, lock in so we can win this game.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you believe that if I lock in, we're gonna win this game because you believe in who I am, right? But if you're just talking down to me, yelling at me, talking down to me, like, yo, you like, it's like you have zero respect for me or whatever. That hits me differently, where it feels like it's not like, yo, I believe in you and you're letting us down. Yo, wake the hell up. It's like, I can't stand you. Get out my, and you know what I mean? Like, that type of energy was what kind of messed with me.
Yeah.
And I know, like, and I'm not disrespecting Kobe, because I fully acknowledge that he's 1,000 times the player that I am. But what I am saying is, even within the context of being a leader, what me and you were saying to him was not, we're smarter than you, we're better than you, or whatever. It was more just like, in this specific situation, here's a little bit of feedback that I felt like you could have handled it differently. You're not perfect, right? Like, and so it comes with so much respect for who he is.
Yeah.
Did he have to respect me, like, with the magnitude and the level of player he was? No, not necessarily. He didn't, I understand why he would look at me and be like, yo, like, he's just, he's not getting it done for us. So, it's again, I don't hold it now to this day. I'm just I've let it go, and me and him patch it up. But that is a concept.
Okay.
All right. So I want to add, all right. So Jeremy Lin spoke about his experience with Kobe and how Kobe treated him, right? Because Kobe really didn't have any respect for him. And so I don't know this. I mean, sometimes people are not really meant to get along, like, no matter what you say. Like, Jeremy Lin did go to Kobe, he had approached him and told him he didn't like the way he was speaking to him. And that, that wasn't, he didn't appreciate that. That wasn't a way that you could get to him and motivate him. It wasn't necessary. He said that we could work together. And sometimes, even if you try that approach with people as with Jeremy Lin and Kobe Bryant, it's still not going to work. But some people seem to think that, like that's the way to that's the way to be. Like if you are not as good as Kobe, or if Kobe don't like something about you, then then you're not worth his time. Now, I also heard, what was the guy named Smush Parker said his locker was right next to Kobe Bryant's locker, and Kobe Bryant wouldn't even speak to him, right? So my question is, do you, as a basketball player or an athlete, do you feel like that, like these guys really need to be assholes in order to be successful, or do they get a pass because they're great basketball players, so they get a pass? Like Michael Jordan also had a reputation of being an asshole, right? And then when during his, what was it, The Last Dance, when Mike said that he never asked anybody to do anything that he wasn't willing to do, and that was Michael Jordan's excuse for being hard on his teammates, being an asshole. I remember he spoke about the time that he punched Steve Kerr, right? And some people applaud Mike for that and thought that it was cool, like what Mike did to Steve Kerr, by punching him. And I disagree. I don't think that it was necessary for Mike to punch Steve Kerr. I just think that, these guys who are, I just think that they bullies, and I just think that they assholes, and so sometimes, and you can point to people that, and because Mike had the success that he had, because Kobe had the success that he had, like they get a pass for that, like it's people overlook that. But then you can see examples of guys who won and had success without having to resort to being an asshole. Like, for instance, if you think of Tim Duncan, right? Tim Duncan, like, like him and his teammates, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, who was the other guy? Tony Parker, and all those guys, they had good relationships, and Tim Duncan didn't feel like he needed to talk down to them in order to gain their respect or get their attention, because I think that professional athletes, by the time you make it to the NBA or you're playing a professional sport, most guys want to, are going to work in order to get better or do their best. Now, in cases when they're not trying to get better or do their best, then yeah, those are the guys you don't want to play with. And I know that Mike and Kobe or any franchise player, even Tim Duncan, would have probably made it clear to, like, or the coach be like, well, this guy's not for us, or he don't fit in with us and we can get him out of there, But I just, in my opinion, I don't think it's necessary for a player to be an asshole in order for them to have success. Just like I don't think that, like when it comes to coaching, right? Some guys can only coach when they have leverage. Like if they can hold something over your head as an athlete, especially like some college coaches, if they can hold your scholarship over your head or something like that, then they feel like that they can use that leverage to get you to play harder, or be able to talk to you any kind of way. But to me, that's not real leadership. Well, they might think it's real leadership, but that's not the best way to lead. I remember watching what's the guy name? Coaches like Dean Smith, coaches like John Thompson, who you knew that that they ran the show, but they, like all of their players, guys who left the school and came back to the school, always praised them for the way that they molded them and guided them and turned them into great professionals, or even men. Like some of those guys that went to North Carolina and Georgetown, they didn't go to the NBA, but they still loved Dean Smith. Same thing with John Thompson, right? Everybody who played for John Thompson didn't go to the NBA, but they still loved and respect those guys because of the way they treated them. So that's why I just think that it's not just because you have leverage, right? You got to be careful with the way you use your leverage, and so that's that's what my point is about Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Like, I like them as basketball players. Used to like, I really like watching them, but you can't. Everything they did wasn't perfect, right? And then this right here, in my opinion, is an example of I like them getting a pass just because of who they were. So let me get back to some more of this. What the host of the show, like his take on it, and I want to push back a little bit, not just push back or just give like a different perspective, not really criticizing them, but just give a different perspective.
Looking at that little photo above Jeremy Lin when he started his comments with Kobe Bryant listening to him, the expressions on these two faces are as such, in my personal view. Jeremy Lin looks like a child, and Kobe Bryant looks like a adult pretending to listening to a child. He didn't respect Jeremy Lin. I mean, period. There was no respect there for the game. Kobe Bryant always played mind games with people, and we know that. He was a tough SOB. He did not accept anything less than, at least striving for perfection from any player that played with him. Dwight Howard lacked that, and Jeremy Lin lacked that as well. Kobe Bryant responded to Jeremy Lin in the way that he did simply because he was literally trying to see what Jeremy Lin is going to do. How is he going to respond to him? Just like look at the story between Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr. Remember the story between Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr? Michael Jordan, after years of, they had that fight in practice, and Steve Kerr stood up to Michael and he went to try to punch him, and he went right at him and stuff like that, got physical with him. And that's what Michael wanted to see in Steve Kerr. And that's where the respect started. Jeremy Lin was supposed to do that. Kobe Bryant was waiting for that monster to come out of Jeremy Lin to see if he's got that kind of a mentality in him. And he saw that he didn't. That's why he did not respect him. That's why Jeremy Lin was there for only one season. All
right, so let me push back on that, right? So players like, all right, you understand that Kobe Bryant is a franchise ball player. Michael Jordan is a franchise ball player. So if you do something to one of those players, then you're going to be off the team, and so you have even heard, like, even Dwight Howard said that when he played with LeBron James in Los Angeles, and he told LeBron James, stop being a bitch, right? And after he told LeBron James that, he was out of there. So Horace Grant, Michael Jordan used to pick on Horace Grant. Horace Grant said he wanted to whip Mike's ass, but Mike knew that he had leverage. So if Horace Grant would have done anything to Michael Jordan, then he would have been out of there. And so that's what I'm saying. So it's easy when you have leverage to be that way. Other than that, like, people are not really going to respect you. And that's not the right kind of leadership. But like I said, you get a pass for that. If you win championships, you get a pass for that. But just take for instance, like, what happened with what was that? The fight, Detroit. Who did Detroit fight? Indiana. When Detroit had that big fight with Indiana, you had Ron Artest, who was known for being like a bully in the NBA, got into it with Ben Wallace. Now, Ron Artest didn't want no parts of Ben Wallace. So all of a sudden, Ron Artest is now he want to take the diplomatic way, out of things when it comes to big Ben Wallace. Because, Ben Wallace is like 6'9", and it wasn't nothing that Ron Artest would have been able to do with Ben Wallace, right? So Ron Artest, he makes it clear, he separated himself from Ben Wallace, and he go lay on that scores table. Now, while he's laying on that scores table, a fan throw water on him. This is after he just get through, fussing with Ben Wallace. A fan throw water on him, and now, but he runs up into the stands, against a fan. But when Ben Wallace, him and Ben Wallace was going to go at it, and he was a diplomat, right? So that just goes to show, like, there's always somebody that's, and I learned this when I was little, there's always somebody bigger and somebody badder than you, right? And so it just shows more character when you know how to finesse your way through situations instead of just trying to bully your way through situations. And that's basically all these guys, all Kobe was, is somebody who was appointed a certain amount of leverage and power, and then he just really abused his power when it came to Jeremy Lin and other players. Like I said, Smush Parker sat right next to him, had a locker right next to him, and Kobe wouldn't even speak to him. Right. And guys just want to get better. They want their team to be better. They know that if they have success on the team, then it's good for them and it's good for the team. But sometimes if you're not favored by Kobe, or if you're not favored by Michael Jordan, or if you're not favored by LeBron James, then these guys can get you out of there. And just imagine being in a position where you work all your life to get, you make it to the NBA, and then these guys, one of those guys don't like you, man, and then it's crazy. It's crazy. Let me get back to what this guy's saying though.
Kobe Bryant never respected him. He gave him things to work on, and he just never talked to him again. I believe to the end of that season. He was waiting literally for Jeremy Lin to stand up to him, to call him out. If he wasn't speaking to him, you're a guy, you got self-respect for yourself. You call a freaking guy out. Like, dude, what the F is your problem? You know what I'm saying? You don't back down. You don't. Knowing that Kobe Bryant was so much better than you, great. But you don't go out and say that over and over to people, and then you're on the same team. No matter if the guy is better than you or not better than you, you fight for your respect. You want to be treated the same way.
Now, I do agree with that, right? You let people know that you're not going to be pushed around, that you demand respect. But like I said, it's about leverage. I remember Michael Jordan he had a little argument with Robert Parrish. Now, Robert Parrish, old school dude, 7 feet tall, won championships with the Boston Celtics. So by the time Robert Parrish go to the Chicago Bulls and with Michael Jordan, like Robert Parrish probably already had like about 18, 19 years in the league. And Michael Jordan tried to bully Robert Parrish and talk stuff to him, right? And Robert Parrish told Mike, that he would whip his ass, right? Because Robert Parrish was in the league. Like, what you gonna do to Robert Parrish? And Mike knew that Robert Parrish would do it because Robert Parrish was one of them old school basketball players who didn't. Robert Parrish probably never even smiled his whole time in the NBA, man. I can't remember seeing Robert Parrish, even smiling, So Robert Parrish just let him know, he told Mike that he could try that nonsense with him if he want to, but he'll whip Mike's ass. And Robert Parrish said after he told Mike that, he never had a problem with him. But it's all about like leverage and what people know what you're capable of as far as being able to, like, like somebody like Jeremy Lin couldn't, like, even if he could physically beat Kobe Bryant, which he probably couldn't, even if he could physically beat Kobe Bryant, he wouldn't have been able to get away with it because he would have lost his job. He'd have lost his spot on the team. Same thing with Horace Grant. When it came to Michael Jordan, Horace Grant, couldn't do nothing to Michael Jordan because, they would have got him out of there, So that's why I say when it comes to leadership, some people can only lead when they have authority. Like when they have leverage over you, then they can lead. And and so they get a pass for being rude to people or mistreating people. And then the person who's getting abused in that situation is being, they say, well, Jeremy Lin was like he was weak or he was soft, and even in the comments, I'm reading this and people saying, well, Jeremy Lin was soft and Jeremy Lin was weak, right? But just imagine on some like if some teams in some situations, Jeremy Lin could be the best player on the team, and you could be playing with Jeremy Lin, and so that means that Jeremy Lin could treat you the way that Kobe treated him, right? And so that's okay. Just like if I'm on a team with Jeremy Lin and I'm not as good a basketball player as Jeremy Lin, and he can talk to me and treat me any kind of way he want, and then I'll get the label as being soft or somebody who's weak. Same thing with what's the other guy, Dwight Howard, right? So and Kobe even tried that with Shaq, but Shaq wasn't going to go for it because Shaq 7 feet tall, like I said, over 300 pounds, and he just wasn't somebody that you could push around. But if you could be pushed around and if Kobe had leverage or if Mike had leverage, then they'll use that leverage, and it is what it is. But and also think about this, even those guys, like when you talking about a sport, like that's where Kobe and Mike, that's where they excel and they comfortable in that arena. So they the cream of the crop. But outside of sports, Kobe and Mike going into different environments would get treated the same way they treated, like the same way Kobe treated Jeremy Lin on the Lakers. Business people didn't care about Kobe's ability to shoot. They didn't care about Kobe's crossover. They didn't care about, how many championships. Like business people, like they treated Kobe or would treat Mike, like when Mike was in DC with the Wizards, man, that guy who owned the Wizards, he dug Mike and disrespect Mike, right? Because it just comes back on you. Like if you don't respect people that are, on your way up, then other people see that, and so they can't wait to, if they have leverage, they can't wait to disrespect you and treat you the way that you treat other people, so that stuff comes back on you. And I can imagine like Kobe and Mike being in different environments outside of basketball where people, like they could care less about how many championship rings you have, because now you're playing a whole different game. And those guys, they might have the leverage in that arena. So that's how things work out. But let me get back to some more of this guy's point of view. I just wanted to push back on that.
You know what I'm saying? Even though your role on that team might not be as big as Kobe Bryant's was. And the Lakers sucked at that time. They were like 21-61. Kobe Bryant had the injury meantime with his Achilles and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, Kobe Bryant's mentality was he was testing people always. And so many of his ex-teammates attest to this, that when he pushed you, he was waiting for you to push back, not give him a nice, calm text message like, man, I don't like your body language, be nicer to me. Get the hell out of here with that. That's not Kobe Bryant dealing with people. That's not building toughness and chemistry and stuff like that on a team. I mean, Jeremy Lin just didn't fit mentally with Kobe Bryant. The same thing with Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was never like that. Dwight Howard.
Now I could see, like, all right, so if Jeremy Lin didn't fit, I don't, when I watched the Lakers back then, I didn't think that Jeremy Lin was a fit too for what, as far as like chemistry, especially as a starter for what the Lakers was trying to do and where the Lakers was trying to go, right? But like I said, there's a way to talk to people and to handle people. And I just thought that, like I said, when Smush Parker, he said the same thing. So I just thought that it was different when, the way that Kobe treated Jeremy Lin, the way he treated Dwight Howard, if they're not a fit and that, there's somebody who you don't want to play with, then that's one thing. Then you can just get them out of there. Or, you could find somebody else to play with, but you can't really, be disrespectful to somebody because they're going to disrespect you. And so that's my whole point about this. Like I said, because everybody at one point or another they're in a position where, like, they're not always the alpha. They're not always the big dog when it comes to you know, you're not always the big dog in the room. So you have to know how to move in those situations. You prepare yourself for when you're not the big dog and when you're not the alpha in the room, you still can move and gain respect, you know, in certain rooms because you're used to maneuvering in rooms without having that leverage or using that leverage at all times. So that's what I you know, I just wanted to push back on some of that. But let me get back to this news right here about Lou Holtz, man. Like I said early when this video, when I first started this live, Lou Holtz, man, I first started watching Lou Holtz like in the late 80s. And you know, you had Notre Dame going at it with Michigan. Those were some really good games. Then you had Notre Dame going at it with like Miami, Florida State. Who that Florida State quarterback I used to like? He went to New York and played basketball for New York. He won the Heisman. What's this guy's name? Damn, I forgot the Heisman Trophy winner though. But man, I'm like in the late 80s and on through. I'm trying to think if Lou Holtz played. He coached up until like 1996. Yeah, he coached from like 87 to I think 96, something like that. And he had a record. Lou Holtz had a record of 100 wins, 30 losses, and 2 ties. Right. Yeah, man. Lou Holtz, them old school quarterbacks, and then Lou Holtz was a funny guy. I remember like at his press conferences and stuff after that, after those games and stuff, man, he was pretty funny guy. So I know a lot of people affiliated, like not just his family, but people that are affiliated with that program, people who are fans of that Notre Dame program. Um, yeah, they probably they definitely hurt behind this man. 89 years old though. Wow, that's he was up there. He was up there. So yeah, condolences though to Lou, to his family and friends and close family members. So, but yeah, that's basically all I have, man. I just like I said, just wanted to pay my condolences to Lou Holtz, and you know, acknowledge like this. Like I said, for me, the '80s and the '90s, man, college football, Notre Dame, man, that it was those are some good. Those are some good times, man. Real good times. So, um, that's all I got for right now. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all in the next video. I think I'm gonna plan on doing more lives um, than I used to do, but I'm gonna start doing lives like throughout the week. So, check y'all out in the next video. Peace.